Or then we can go live. Perfect. So welcome to DIN. We're a small nonprofit trying to push the future of digital identity in the Nordics. It is driven by me in the front seat. I'm working normally in Douala and work in the SSI standardization community. We also have with us from time to time Nina, who's working at Signicat, and also I blanked on the last name. Sorry. But we're trying to make sure that we are aligning us for the future of digital identity. And since we're very comfortable in the position we are here in Norway, and we're going to go through a couple of use cases around the world to see how they have attacked this problem. And we're going to, in the last recording we talked to Germany, who has now gotten about 100 million euros funding to build SSI identity across their company, or not company, their country. And if you're curious to how that went, you can always see the recording, not here, but in our initiatives, where we kind of got an introduction from Yolocom, which has built up this consortia, which is here, which is kind of powerful, but they don't have what is now recognized in the identity community as the Nordic identity model. So people do know about Scandinavia and Sweden and Denmark having bank ID, and that how well efficient it works, and that there's not that many countries that do have this. So we're gonna do also a small, depends on how many people we come, but small breakouts, brainstorming session afterwards as well, where we can discuss some use cases and try to throw a ball a little bit based on your guys' experience, because I can be very stuck in this community. So we would like to kind of grab up some more use cases. And then we just do a quick summary afterwards. So this event, we're gonna go through a couple of use cases, and we're gonna try to bring what the world does into Nordic context and kind of figure out what is working very well in Norway, why is it working, and why does the rest of the world want to take it one step further, and what can we do here in Norway? So the first case I want to bring up, I don't know how many people have heard about Silicon Valley Innovation Program. Nobody? That's good. Marina? You're mute if you're going to speak, or did you want to speak?
No, it's just saying that I know of it.
Yeah, thank you. So it's the Silicon Innovation Valley program, and it has been driven by Homeland Security. They have said that SSI is the future of infrastructure that can allow their country and their departments to buy software without locking themselves in anywhere. So what they did, they funded about 6 or 8 companies around the world to build out this pipeline, which looks a lot like our 7 Life events, which Norway, the government has tried to initiate, where they are going to go through this guy called Louis. He's going to go through being immigrated, getting a vaccine, getting a permanent resident card. He gets an employee credential. He gets a credential that he's over 21, and he gets a lot of different credentials, and is operating with only one wallet, or since they have like 6 or 7 companies, they're gonna, all the same wallets can go through the same flow depending on what wallet the user wants to use. And they have also made it so that each of these issuers can come from different type of companies. They're just following the standards, meaning that these 3 layers and these pillars are completely different companies and services, but they're all interoperating in a very flexible manner, making sure that the whole center is about the user's wallet. So before we kind of move onwards, how well known are you guys in the holder verifier issuer concept? What kind of information or kind of experience that from before? I know we have one from Solid here that has some experience, but how about Didier or Lars-Erik?
We have been we have some knowledge about it. We looked at Microsoft initiatives about it, so we did test and played a bit without. So I think we have the fundamentals.
Yeah, but the Microsoft environment and Microsoft information is a good start. It's a very good start.
Yeah. So, but I did read a lot about it, and I did a presentation here in our company.
Yeah.
So I think I mean we know the concept. If this is your question.
That's the question. Then it's easier for me to know where to lay the grounds for further discussion.
Just for me, I don't know what Lars-Erik is saying, but I feel comfortable with that.
Yeah, sounds good. So what in Solid, do you guys call it anything different?
Oh, sorry.
No problem.
Sorry about that. Trying to fix the computer instead of the mobile phone. But yeah. So yeah, we are working with verifiable credentials and that kind of part, those kind of technologies in the Solid project. But I don't have that much experience myself, as I haven't been working that closely with it myself.
No. Do you guys work on like the model holder issuer verifier? Because you have the Solid storage, which is going to be connected to the user, and the user is going to control it with something. Do you call it a wallet, or do you call it something else?
So in Solid, we call it pods.
Yeah.
So you store your data in pods, basically. Yeah.
Yeah. Because like it all comes around the philosophy around my data, where like you're going to control your data, you're going to have access to it, and you're going to be able to share it when you need to share it. But this project is really, really interesting, and is one of the projects I love to talk about when it comes to interoperability, because as I said, they have 6 to 8 different companies tackling the different parties here, because one of their main goals was to make sure that we don't care who or what service we buy. We can buy different services for different steps. So I have written about them before, or we have written about them before under DIN, but they have a very long they have these plug fests where they present from different companies, and they also showcase how all of them can come with a platform, and they can do issuance and verifications together with the right cryptography, and then some only has holder capacities, and some has verifiability capacities, and some issuance capacities. So they have done a really, really interesting funding on this, which is something I'm really hope that Norway can do, and something we in DIN is working towards by also having applied for research projects to make sure this is going forward. But if you guys in Steria, or I'm not going to say that you're representing Steria today, but if you guys do this at work, I would love to have a meeting with you guys at a later point to be able to discuss how can we get together in Norway to do this, because we cannot sit in our own little silos and solve this problem, because this problem is a collaborative problem, and we all need to come together and figure out how do we make the right credentials move in the right direction. And here we can see an example of there's a credential with transmute that goes via a broker who's using MaveNet. And then there's a seller via Spherity that goes via a fulfillment center that uses transmute. And then you have Mesure that has a farmer, and then a refiner. So you see it all kind of just intertwines, but it works in a very solid supply chain state. And we're not looking here to have one company to rule them all, as BankID today does, because that's not going to work if we want to get to a more flexible, shareable environment. So this is what they have been working on to get this flow going with different companies. I think that I want to take, we're going to go look at an 8-minute video, which looks at Transmute's implementation of how this flows. So we can see how then this can be used in the supply chain. This verifiable credential, DIDs, can be used in the supply chain. So I hope that this video will go through. Let me know if you guys have any sound issues, and I will try to fix it.
Bill of lading, verifiable credential. I'm going to share this in a way the transmute platform. I'm going to take you through all of that in a demo, verifiable presentations. Sample of how
and a demo.
Thanks, Carol. Here's a simple example of how documents are exchanged among participants of a global supply chain. In terms of standards, DIDs can represent the parties, many other things. Verifiable credentials to documents exchanged as verifiable presentations. Our platform supports this in a number of different ways. We have an intuitive web app for ad hoc users. We have a spreadsheet interface for business users doing bulk actions, and an API for automation. I'm going to take you through all of that in a demo, starting from a carrier issuing a bill of lading to a shipper, and then go from there. So here I am logged in as the carrier on the Transmute platform. At this point, I don't have any credentials issued yet, but I do have a template for bills of lading, so let's go ahead and issue one. I'm going to drag in the data, and go next, and apply a signature, and issue the bill of lading verifiable credential. I'm going to share this in a way I wouldn't recommend in reality, but just to demonstrate the feature, I will make it public like this and copy the link and then share that by email or some other means. We're now going to switch persona and look at the platform from the shipper's point of view. So authenticating here, getting onto the platform, and now I'm going to paste in that link that we received from the carrier. That will show the bill of lading verifiable credential, the data, and we can go ahead and verify it. And if everything checks out, I will add that to my wallet. So that takes us through the Chappy flow here. And within the presentation, I will select the bill of lading credential and add that to my wallet. Now, if we go to the shipper's homepage, we should see the bill of lading credential along with a mill test report, which was received earlier in the supply chain use case, as well as a verifiable business card, which we'll get back to in just a second. But before sharing anything onwards from here, the shipper needs to issue a commercial invoice. And it's a business user, so used to doing most of the work through spreadsheets just like this. So they'll use the Transmute spreadsheet interface to issue this credential. It's very easy to do bulks.
Sorry?
We don't see the video.
Oh, you don't see the video anymore?
No, I mean, we have been chatting, but we haven't seen the video since the start, actually.
Oh, sorry. Did you at least hear the sound? And I'll try to make sure that no video. Do you guys see the video now? Or what?
The supply chain.
Do you see the video?
As
No
well,
video.
verifiable.
No, it's not going to render over the video meeting.
Okay. Then I guess that we will try to drop this this case, and we can just talk about it. And I can share the link in the chat for you guys to have a look at afterwards. I didn't know what the sound chat was, and I couldn't see that both of them. So sorry for spending 2 minutes of your time.
Fine.
But basically, what they're talking about is that they are they've done issuance available via APIs, spreadsheets, and the web app, and they're basically talking about how they bring these specific credentials needed for a supply chain from actor to actor. So what we have to do to kind of break out our mindset is that we don't need this aggregating platform to consume all the data to make the data efficient and usable for others that needs to use the same data. We can bring the data with the user, with the package, with the company along the way. So that let's just say that a very clear example in Norway is that why do I have to download an app to showcase my digital driver's license? Why cannot I use whatever app I want to store my digital driver's license in a trustworthy manner, and the police and everyone can just request that from me and see that I have a valid driver's license? And I can even use that driver's license to verify my age when I go and buy some wine at the store, or even go to the pharmacy and they demand to see a physical ID because they don't trust the app, which is very, very complicated. Like, why don't we have a digital way of verifying ourselves? We have bank ID, but that is not implemented in a physical way today. So it's about bringing that data in a trustworthy format along with the subject of the data. So if you think about that mindset, and they put this into a supply chain where they're going to have all this bill of landing. They even have verifiable business credential, meaning that, hey, you can have BREG issue a business credential saying you are a legal business, and then you can present that wherever you need to present that you're a legal business. You don't need to talk to BREG to double check that, because that verifiable credential itself is trustworthy. But to be able to do this, you need a solid trust framework, which we're not going to go into now. We're just trying to kind of pique your imagination, pique your thoughts to kind of be able to figure out what are the core use cases we need here in Norway. There is something called BC.gov, which is really, really cool in relation to business credentials. They have done this in British Columbia. They have created a whole verifiable credential network. Where they basically call it Verifiable Organizations Network, and they issue credentials instead of having a centralized database that holds the truth or the reality of certain safety credentials, confirmation, registration credentials, permits, or whatever, meaning that the data can flow much, much more efficient because you can allow competition on top of this. You don't have to have one service building all these features. So this is super interesting. And we also have in Norway, we have a company working with BREG, trying to put this verifiable credential stuff on in a blockchain space, but we'll see how it's been going to be released. But it's a very interesting project, which is driven by Symphony Oslo.
But isn't the biggest challenge here how to bootstrap that?
Yeah. So, but the thing in Norway, we don't have that challenge because we have Bank ID that can bootstrap everything.
Yeah.
We have a very solid centralized thing that can bootstrap everything because we have built so much digital trust into centralization that I don't see that the bootstrapping in Norway going to be a problem.
Yeah, but you still have to have some that issue credentials and some that are able to validate those. And the question is who's starting and how to start. I mean, because for this is a benefit for the end user, but the company, the business, or I'm not sure the government, but they have also interest in going toward this model by
Yeah.
not having to source so many information about everybody.
So I think that the government, if they could host a more efficient ID port than they do today, like instead of having to reply to hundreds of thousands of requests every week, they could just issue credentials and they could have the market kind of drive forward. EU is enforcing all governments to at least have one digital wallet within 5 years. So we're going in that direction. That data is going to be controlled by the user. And what that means going forward, we don't know. But the EU has said, because of EIDAS, is that everyone is going to have a digital wallet. And then it's the government's responsibility to make sure that there are at least one digital wallet representable in your country. And if the government decides to make it an own, or they put it on Anbud or something else, it doesn't really matter. But the key part here is that we get the issuers, we get the verifiers running in Norway to make sure that we are able to build out the use cases in a very, very quick manner, because we have multiple people that can offer this issuance and verification software to different people who is willing to pay for them becoming more digital in a more efficient way. That's how I look upon it. But I really enjoy kind of different takes on this. And I don't mean to shoot down anyone's arguments. I'm just very engaged when it comes to this. So I would love to hear anything that you guys feel is not, might not work, problems, based on, we can now just throwing everything up in the air to kind of think about use cases. So the next part is actually directly from the Verifiable Credentials standards use case document. They have tried to map out certain problem domains for verifiable credentials as education. You have digital transcript, taking tests, transferring schools, online classes. In retail, there's age and address verification problems. In finance, you have the possibility to reuse your know your customer. And then healthcare, we all know that there's a lot of data credentials. And in identity, and also the interesting part is about IoT. Can these devices have their own cryptographical signature to kind of be a device on its own? So there's a lot of problem domains they have tried to map out. And this is also, again, trying to just fill your guys' heads with inspiration to what are cases, valuable cases worth discussing in the context of Norway. And then we have that same the same, like how the flow should be. is that it exists an issuer. Today, the issuer stores it in a database. The verifier has to go and ask the database if the holder is who they claim to be, right? That's the flow we do today. But the task is the issuer issue a claim to the holder. The holder stores it, can retrieve it, or can move it. It's very flexible. And the holder can assert a claim to a verifier, and they can verify things using cryptography. And the issuer can revoke and amend with other flexible attributes inside the verifiable credential. So this is a much smoother flow in terms of going from left to right rather than having a circle in the back room around the holder.
So I guess I could say a little bit about how Solid might work in terms of how this flow could work. Because of course we argue that these credentials or these kind of keys that you could then use to have a verifiable credential contacting the verifier and all this could be stored in pods. So the flow could be, you could authenticate with your web ID, as we call the identity that you have on the web. And there can then be some kind of verification mechanism between the web ID and the pods where it's stored. And then the server could then start the process of verifying using verifiable credentials.
Yeah.
So it's not completely written in stone because this is kind of up in the air. This is kind of this is one of the things they're discussing how it should work. That is one way it could work with Solid.
Yeah. Absolutely. And one thing that we have to figure out is like, if we can all resolve around verifiable credentials, the identifier is not the biggest problem, but the identifier has to be flexible in the sense of cryptography. And we have to be able to encrypt or not encrypt, but at least sign the data we're moving around, and it can easily be resolvable. So in terms of you guys having your own web ID, it doesn't matter, because if we can get that working together with the DIDs as well, it's just an identifier that's easily resolvable and can work with cryptography without a centralized manner. So
that is true. Yeah, I would of course then add that there's the web ID works just an identifier, but could also of course have more. So with Solid, you would be able to reference data from that web ID, like the user's preferred name and that kind of stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. But then again, you don't have to. You can just ask for a credential, right, for that same data. The ID is just a mapper.
True.
So in a sense, like the ID itself is just, if you look at identities, it is just an identifier and then lots of data. And how do we make this data accessible?
Yeah, so with Solid, you would have multiple ways of accessing that data. You could have it through verifiable credentials, or if you don't need that kind of level of security, or you don't need that. You don't need that basically. You could just get the document and kind of go from there. Follow the nose, as we say in Solid.
Absolutely. I just want to make sure, are you guys seeing a diagram now? Because I see that my record or my screen sharing is looking a bit strange.
Nah, I can only see Vimeo.
Oh, sorry. This is not good. 1 second. Because I'm trying to reference stuff, and if I'm showing the wrong thing, then that's not good.
Yeah, this is a Vimeo stream. Yeah, it's gone now, but we can't see anything now.
Okay. How about now?
Yeah,
Yes.
you good.
Yeah, perfect. Because what I did, I started with this diagram, and I was trying to point to education, retail, finance when we're moving onwards from video part, and so you can get some context of what I was talking about. And now we're in this diagram over here, which is how this flows from left to right in a more manner where you have, this is where the pods will live, right? For in solid project, and the holder can both be a business and a person, and the issuer can also be a business and a person, and the same for the verifier. It doesn't really matter. It just depends on what is the use case context you're actually trying to verify. And then very rudimentary example of verification flow, age verification flow, is that you visit a website, and the website requires that you're 21 years of age. So this is where it comes down to the verifiable credential semantics, where they basically say, we just want proof of age. They don't necessarily know exactly what proof of age, they just say, we want proof of age. And that talks to an agent and then displays the relevant credentials for the user, and it selects it, and it goes back and is verified, and they can redirect it. So this is a peer-to-peer communication between the user and the website/server. It doesn't talk to bank ID, it doesn't talk to Statens vegvesen, it doesn't talk to the government, because it doesn't need to, because this credential was issued by identifier that this consumer could trust. So if you take a look at the last link here that I'm going to share, it's basically looking at the direct verifiable credential in itself. They have an example where they take international travel with a minor. So this is a passport, a very simple model, where this is the government's DID. So it says as an issuer, and then this is, so I think this might be a little bit outdated. It's supposed to say credential subject here, and then the ID for the credential subject, and a couple of attributes. And it has the type passport credential, which means that I can ask for passport credential, and I can get this data instead of asking for something else. And then you have a different way of representing it, so it's not that important. This is where trust frameworks and we all have to work together to figure out how do we define these data models, which we can release. But that can go pretty quickly, than much faster in building a centralized data model, a centralized data structure and aggregator. And then you have the son of the first person, which also has a passport, but it's is underage, because you have this birth certificate that says underage. But this birth certificate links the parent together to the DID we earlier saw up here. So this is how you can basically link two people together, and then you have a travel pass, which tells who is going to be the participant, where he's going to travel, and also a signature from the person allowing it. So this is a flow that's again trying to spike your imagination to how we can use credentials in an interesting manner. So the last part before we go to a little bit of brainstorming is we talk about the life actions. How many of you guys know about these life events, basically?
I'm not sure if you know, but it's nothing on the screen is written in English.
No, it's nothing. It's not in English. I know, but it's Norway mapped out 7 life events, which is having a child, sick child, losing and finding job, new Norway, death and inheritance, start and drive an organization, or start and drive a company. So that's what they say is 7 important life events, and I'm trying to digitize everything. How can we make it more efficient and digital for the Norwegian user? So that again is, I'm just trying to wrap it back to the Nordics, to Norway, how basically these examples we've gone through, looked at global supply chain with steel mills. We have looked at person coming into the US and getting a credential. We have looked at exactly like how the credentials look and how those very simple other examples around different problem domains. And now I would love to kind of have a small brainstorming session where we try to put down use cases in Norway that we feel can be done a whole lot better if we had verified, if everything was in place. Don't think about complexity. Don't think about that this is difficult to implement. Just think that, okay, based on the flow that we have learned now, how things can go from issuer to verifier via holder, what are use cases that we believe is very, very valuable. So I'm going to share this link now, which I'm going to pass everyone into a Miro board. And then we can break up into 2 groups. I think we will 3 in each group. And in that Miro board, you will see what group you're part of and what the link you're going to join. So if you're in the group 1, you're going to stay in this room. If you're in group 2, you can click on that other link. And you guys try to create up a couple of just very simple use cases that you believe is super valuable for Nordics. Sounds like a plan?
Sure.
Perfect. Then I'll come pick up the groups or the guys in group room 2, which is Arne, Lars-Erik, and Sani, in about 15 minutes, and we will convene after that. Sounds good.
Sounds good. You're going to share the URL for the other group?
If you join the Miro, there I can share the direct chat or direct link.
Right.
It's in the Miro board itself, but I can also. So the group 2 is going to be Arne, Lars, and Sani, and then I can share that as well. So you can have a fruitful discussion in a more close environment, and we can talk about it a little bit here. Joe and Didier.
Okay, I'm trying to find the other group here, but
This is the other link if you guys need to. The Meet Jitsi in room 2. And then you can jump in there, and I will come and pick you up.
Okay, I'll jump over. Talk to you guys later.
Perfect.
All right.
Yes, Didier and Joe.
Hello,
Yes.
hello.
Hello.
So, what are some use cases that kind of just brings to mind immediately for you guys? I will kind of put down the cards as we go.
Oh, okay, great. Start off to the top. I was thinking, how is alcohol sales? I know that was an example that was used, but something as simple as going to the store and proving that you are as old as you say you are, or maybe it's for insurance. maybe you go to an insurance broker and they need to know that you're over 25 before they can give you proper insurance.
So today, this is done primarily via physical credentials.
Phone call.
Unless you do it in a digital manner, which uses bank ID. So it's a very either or. But it is a perfect use case to the one use case that's been promoted is like, hey, I go to a bar, and why should that person at the door know all my information on a driver's license when he can just get a green check that says, yes, I'm above 21?
Right.
Why does the barman have to be a well-educated person knowing about all these credentials and kind of know a lot about the physical credentials and look for signs of flaw when we can just use cryptography, which has green or red, basically? So it's a very important use case, and I think that me just going and buying a wine at the wine store, and they say you cannot use this digital driver's license app to verify your age, just proves that the system is kind of broken today. The digital system in it all.
I have another case, which is I'm living in Norway, but I'm not Norwegian. And I don't have any ID with my national security number, Norwegian national security number, which I have. And I have no ID with that one and the picture. So I had some situation where it was a kind of deadlock because they wanted to check my identity and they wanted to see my national security ID and my face, I mean a picture of it.
Yeah.
So that was interesting because I could do that on the net with bank ID when I was important, but they couldn't. I couldn't do that physically in the shop.
That's interesting.
So I mean, we are not that many in that situation, but this is actually a use case that that is interesting, I think.
That's really interesting, actually. And
because before we had on the bank card we had the picture.
Yeah.
They stopped with that probably because of the cost, and then I don't have any idea. And then of course they asked me first the passport. I said yes, but you won't find my Norwegian social security number. And then yeah, but you have a driver license. Yeah, I do, but it's not a Norwegian one.
That is super interesting. I like if we were doing SSI and verifiable credentials, that wouldn't be a problem at all. It could be because they just want to verify your age, right? Or what did I want to verify?
In just that example, it was a mobile phone subscription. So they wanted to check my social security number. They wanted to have it, make sure that it was mine. Yeah, KYC.
Yeah, because really, like if we were in a SSI and verifiable credential environment, if you were able to get the credential that says it's issued by the government, so it has the government's trusted signature, you get that into your wallet, and you kind of go and connect with the store. So you have done a cryptographical connection with the store. And when you then present this credential, they know that you are the rightful holder of this cryptographical connection, and that connection and signature matches the ID that the government gave it to you on. So they can just trust that the cryptography has been right all the way, and then they got a name, a social security number, and they can trust that since you're the holder, you're the right person.
Yeah.
And you could also always just add a picture in there for more, if you want to start using physical verification then and there, but you don't really need to if you have that many cryptographical signatures from the root.
Yeah. The other case was to get delivered something at the post office.
Yeah.
They wanted to check the ID. That was for my wife. So, and the worst is that this was to deliver a bank ID. That was.
But they need a passport, right?
Yeah.
And you guys have are you guys from France, or where are you guys from?
Yeah, France. Yeah.
Yeah. So you guys had a French passport, but the scanner in the post office does not recognize that.
No, they didn't ask for it actually.
No.
And I mean, they didn't care really because they wanted to have the social security number, which is used for everything in Norway.
Yeah.
So.
Absolutely.
But the big use case I was thinking about it was stopping to sign on with all this. I mean, registering all the time in all this net shop. I mean, websites. I think this is really getting impossible to manage anymore. I mean, the authentication process, this is and registration process. This is a nightmare, I think.
Absolutely.
So I would see. This is perhaps not directly verifiable credential, but I would see that as one of the best advantage, at least for consumers, for citizens.
Yeah. And I think that one of the first steps we have to kind of accept is that, well, the Norwegian government doesn't have to hold and own your identifier.
Yeah.
They don't need to do that anymore because we can link everything with cryptography. They can just say, okay, hey, you are trying to immigrate to Norway. Well, that's great. Show me some proof of where your wallet is. Show me your passport of some other country, and we can accept you. So when you have kind of given them a wallet connection, you're giving them your identifier that's going to work across the globe. And then they can start issue you a credential, say, hey, yes, you are a Norwegian. You're allowed to stay here in Norway with this identifier. And then you can start going around and, okay, now I'm going to sign up at Altinn. I'm going to sign up over here, and I can just use this credential going onwards. And you started that root trust somewhere in some trustworthy process. And this, if they were like, okay, yeah, we can get a let's say you moved to Norway because of a job. This company could then create a employee credential for you, and then you can combine that with your French passport, and then you can basically sign up for Norway digitally, because Norway says, okay, you gotta have a valid identity. Yeah, that's a French passport. You gotta have a reason to come here. Yeah, that's the employee credential. And then they can check, oh yeah, this employee is a true-worthy employee by asking their credentials, automatically saying, hey, someone is saying, are you a valid business, basically, because we don't want people to create fake business credentials, which is kind of possible. So that is also a very interesting case. Well, this is good. Any other thoughts, guys?
No, I think this is a good start.
Yeah. I think that like what we're trying to do in DIN is to get these highlighted and at some point get the government to understand that, hey, we got to go and do this shit. Because we are lazy in Norway in regards to having bank ID.
Yeah, because this is working fine, but there are a lot of drawbacks that people don't see.
Yeah. Do you have any idea, like any suggestion on any drawbacks right now, or?
It's about how do you say that, privacy, I think.
Yeah.
But Norway is not very concerned about that, but I think it's a concern. So I mean, bank ID, or they know everything about what I'm doing with this EID.
Yeah, and I think one thing that's really really bad is actually WIPs.
Yeah.
Now that they have started doing WIPs login,
yeah,
they are no different from Google, and they're also very powerful because they know all your payments purchases, and they're also kind of trying to be between all payment providers and everything. So it's not good, really.
No, it's not good. And bank ID is there is a cost associated with that. We are now almost forced to use it at work in some situation.
You are?
Yeah. I won't say which organization. It's not so Prasera, but it's a customer of mine, and they're using it to do remote access, to authentify users.
Wow, that is crazy. That is actually kind of wild. I know it seems very. It seems like a good solution because everyone has it.
Yeah, everybody's happy, but I don't think it's a good solution.
No, I'm glad to hear. Finally, someone. That's crazy. I have a friend who's like really pushing for this in his consultancy company. He's working a lot of identity infrastructure, and he's like, why are we doing all these strange verifications around in Norway? It's super weird.
Sounds like a use case that you can use is the zero knowledge proof. You just need to know that I have it or that it's valid, and that's it.
Yeah. Do you know about this, Didier?
I know about the theory, but I read a bit about it, but I'm not sure. I don't have any experience with that, and I wish I'm not sure it's working already. I don't know much about the market. I'm very new in this area. I'm expert in identity management, but not SSI. So I read that this is very impressive functionality, but I'm not sure it's that available. I mean, it's.
So I can share. We actually we have a visit from someone who does implement a very lightweight zero knowledge proof, which is called BBS plus signatures.
Mm-hmm.
Which what they do is that you create a JSON-LD credential, you sign it with a BBS plus signature, and then you use frames to ask for data.
Mm-hmm.
So what you can do is that you create a big normal credential with a subject and a lot of attributes, but when you're going to go and request data from someone, you basically request a frame, so that, hey, based on these attributes, I just want your job title. And then you're asked to approve that, and they are going to get that credential with that frame, and then also the signature is still valid based on that you're able to send this data to them.
No.
So this is a selective disclosure on a little bit based on zero knowledge proof. But that way you can also say, I'm not going to share any attributes. I'm just going to say, you're going to request a passport. You're going to get, yes, here's a valid passport credential that I can prove that I own and hold.
Yeah.
But you're not going to get any attributes of them. So you're not going to get details. You're just going to get, this is a valid thing.
Yeah, no, but this is cool. I wish. Yeah, I really want to learn more about that and see how we can yeah, be eventually on that as well. So,
Yeah.
but I have to leave in 3 minutes. Actually, I have another meeting starting at 5. So I will have to leave you there, guys.
Yeah, no problem. But really, thanks.
No problem, man.
I would. Could you send me an email? We can have a meeting at some point.
Yeah, we can do that. I can reach you on the Meetup app or.
Yeah, or just go to din.foundation, which is
Okay.
the holder of this whole thing, and then you can contact us, or you find an email there, and you will get in touch with me.
Okay, good. We do that.
Perfect.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye then. Bye.
Bye.
All right, bye.
Bye.
Just gonna go get the other guys. I'm glad you're here, Joe. How do you find it?
Interesting, really interesting. Getting your mind wrapped around like all these extra use cases and stuff it's nice.
Sorry, Joe. I just had to go get the other guys. But yeah, it's. I'm glad you think it's interesting.
It's like I hope that my hope is that it could be taken from just thought and made into reality or pushed into something that is concrete.
Absolutely.
Because then that would be really cool.
That's what we're doing in Diwala, right? And then we gotta make sure the rest of the world also does this.
Yep, 3.0, Web 3.0. You know, and it's going to take a while. Huh? I don't expect this to take on or take root within a year. It'll take like maybe 5 years or so. People will start jumping on board.
Do you guys want to present any of your highlighted use cases? Go, Arne, you can maybe talk a little bit about them.
So yeah, we have some kind of traditional use cases, like the verifying supply chains and everything. Like in Norway, salmon is a good export, so you could verify that it's of good quality and it's going to be extracted in a proper way and all that. So you have like fair trade examples of coffee already here in Norway about that, and yeah. Next use case we were thinking about was the verifying tickets, which could be a very useful use case in the sense of kind of getting the technology out to the people, so to say, because there are a lot of events and tickets, and this could avoid some problems with the black markets, people reselling tickets that I should not be able to do, and that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And of course, verifying certain health attributes is also a traditional use case, which of course also needs to be accompanied by, we need to have then good processes of who should be able to ask this, and there needs to, not everybody should be able to kind of listen into this kind of things.
Yeah. Who are some actors in this use case? Like, I just want to, if you have some.
Yeah, I mean the whole the public sector in Norway is a big like the public health, all of the doctors and all of the hospitals and everything like that. And there's certainly a lot of things that could be improved on technology front there.
Absolutely.
Yeah. We had a use case about surveys that require anonymity, where you can give them only kind of the things that they need for that survey.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's cool. We were also kind of thinking about one thing is to kind of automate the buys that you do on duty-free on airports. So like when you show your border the tickets, border pass, You could tie that kind of up to the wallet and automate that. And of course, when you have these goods that you can do tax deduction on airports, it could also perhaps be more automated. Today, you have to kind of have receipts physically and to go and they have to see everything and all that kind of stuff. Maybe that could be digitized with verifiable credentials.
Yeah.
And of course, the very common use case is a driver license.
Yeah, I've actually been talking a lot about this receipts as verifiable credentials thing. For example, let's say that you want to give an offer to all Rema 1000 customers who purchase a banana. You want to give them a discount for banana smoothie. How are you going to do that in a flexible manner? It's impossible, right? But if I go to Rema and I scan my phone to pay, and at the same time also get a credential that says I bought a banana, and when I go over there and pay, or I go and try to say I'm actually eligible for this discount because I can showcase a receipt that's valid and has the date and everything, that flow just goes, right? So it's very similar. It's very similar to a tax deduction. Like you can actually have valid receipts in a digital encrypted, or not encrypted, but cryptographically verified manner. It's really cool. I like it. Do you guys have 2-3 more minutes? I want to hear what we kind of came up with.
I'll stick around.
Yeah, I'm right here.
Yeah, because we had Didier, who's actually a French. He grew up in France, and he's having problems with not having an actual physical ID with his picture on it, and where he's struggling to. He has bank ID, so he can operate in the digital sphere. But when he's going to go and, for example, buy a mobile subscription, or he's going to go and fetch something from the post office that demands a physical ID with a picture, he doesn't have that. So he can operate, he can go create a business on Altin, but he cannot go fetch his package, which is very, very interesting. And that, if that kind of comes down to that, hey, it's actually quite it's time consuming to create physical credentials, and it's being backed up, and it takes a lot of time. And before you can have, they had a bank card with a picture on it, but that is now gone. And now everyone is acting as an identity guard because that's the culture. Or you're going to look at something with a picture and a name, and I'm going to try to deduct that this is real. Why are everyone working as an identity guard when we can just present a credential, right? And then, so that was very, very interesting to me.
I just want to add there, of course, there is some history there in Norway when it comes to these national ID cards. That has never happened. So maybe verifiable credentials is technology that will just remove the need of a national ID card.
Absolutely. And like driver's license, and it's crazy. Like he has a French passport, but that was not valid. His wife's going to fetch something that needed passport verification, and they didn't accept a French passport. So it's like a lot of strange stuff going on. Another use case is that I believe the paper mill to migrate to another country for a job might be very complex. But in a verifiable credential manner, you could just sit in France, get an employee credential or to be employed credential,